This has by far been one of the most frustrating builds I've ever done, and this is the Gnarly FPV Sub Atomic 2. And this just ended up in a ball of smoke. So I was flying around on a test flight and finally getting a pack in, crashed into a bush, and lo and behold, I look over and a giant ball of smoke came out of the tree. And that just about sums up what this quad has been. Frustration after frustration after frustration. Now, before I go through all of that, this is not to take away from what the team at Gnarly FPV have done. This is an amazing little frame. The amount of work and effort and craftsmanship that goes into the frame itself from the team at Gnarly is unbelievable. From the camera cage being machined to the way that you've got the recess for the hardware in the frame, it is a really well designed and built frame. The thing that lets this entire quad down is the electronics, and trying to run a 16x16 all-in-one that is running 2 to 3S, VTX and receiver, it's just asking a lot from the electrical components. Now, in terms of the build specifications, I'm using the recommended JHEMCO GHF13 all-in-one, and that's a 13 amp all-in-one flight controller in ESC. I'm also running a Flywave Goku VTX that has 16x16 mounts and the Express LRS EP2 receiver. In terms of the motors, I've gone with the RC Empower 1202.5 11,000 kV. And overall, I'm running 2S batteries, which are 350 milliamps from China Hobby Lines, and the 3S batteries are the Beta FPV 300 milliamps. And you know, it's certainly overall a really well built and well designed quad, but we're just trying to cram too much into such a small package. So getting into the issues that I had with this, so this is the second flight controller. The first one I just couldn't get to fly anywhere half decent, whether it was the stock PIDs or any attempt at tuning it, it wouldn't actually fly well. The motors seemed to flutter, and basically it just flew like an absolute dog. I also then started to experience issues with the VTX in terms of it browning out, so I thought, okay, well, let's try this on 2S, on 3S, and nothing. I tried multiple VTXs, two from Panda RC, 16x16, and then a Beta FPV M02, which was big, but still had the same issue. Then went and stripped out the Goku VTX from my Flywave Firefly, and that seemed to be what I thought a decent solution. Except it turns out that running it on 2S, the flight controller and the ESC just draws too many amps that causes the VTX to brown out. So running it on 3S actually solved that problem, and you could actually get a lot better video from it. In terms of the camera, it is using the Cadex Ant, which doesn't have a decent field of view. It's a decent enough camera if you're flying around your backyard. I was able to try and solve the tuning problem by reflashing Betaflight a couple of times to no avail. So then in went the second flight controller, and that seemed to solve all the problems, and I was able to get a decent flight out of it, until I crashed into a bush and it went up in a puff of smoke. It appears that the cause of the smoke is actually a short between two of the ESC pads, where potentially a bush has gotten in between them and caused that short to then send it up in smoke. Now, I'm actually going to park this one here because this has been 2 weeks in the making to get to where we are today. I think in terms of a project, that's it for me. So whether or not you're looking to buy the Gnarly FPV frame, I wouldn't let that stop you from buying the frame if you've got your eyes set on it. The thing to keep in mind is that we are trying to do a lot and cram a lot of electronics into a small space. I don't see the electronics in the FPV hobby being where they need to support the volume of power coming through this. If you look at the Flywave Firefly, which runs 4S, that's using a double stack with a dedicated ESC and flight controller. And that's going to fit, but it's going to be very tight. So is this something you should probably go and build and buy yourself? If you've got your heart set on it, go for it. But bear in mind, the electronics are really small, and you're going to have to be on point with your soldering, because the pads are super tiny. Going and buying something like a bind and fly 2-inch or Whoop is going to be a better option than building this one yourself. Well, I'm Darren from Everything Micro FPV. Until next time, don't forget to send it.